Hello everybody, my name is Kevin Smith, and my little clutter room in my corner of creation has been reinstated, as you can see. I actually thought it would make a good analogy. If what you see here could be considered my real self, and everybody has a real self that stands in the true reality of the all is, and everybody also has a personal self which they have created. Their real self has created their personal self, and all the 5 vehicles that reside in all of the 5 levels of the creational matrix. As we know, the whole purpose of this simulation, this holographic matrix of the psych realms, and all the 5 levels that are incorporated in it, and all the 5 vehicles that correspond to each of these 5 levels, are for one reason only: to have experiences, and then through comparison, as the only way to recognize the all is to first realize what it is not, and this is the only way the recognition can be achieved. And so that is the sole purpose of the entire creational matrix, from the physical level all the way through the levels to the ethereal. So if my body here, we could say, is my real self, standing in the new nowness of the true reality of the all is, then I will turn around, and I can then regard objectively my personal self. My personal self and all the 5 vehicles that incorporate it, that I have created for gleaning the experiences required to recognize my real self, and the real universes of the all is that I reside within. And so we can see all that we have been through, all the past lifetimes, all the experiences are recorded as references. They are recorded in our causal body, which is the 3rd one. Also, with our personal created self, will be all the ideas that we have agreed to, all the emotional attachments that we have, and the tap lines accordingly. And so as we go through our process of becoming more aware, we start to remove the tap lines by singing the new you song and having our real intent established, and that is to be with the is, which is here and now, and we can stand now in excuse me, the new nowness of the all is. From here we can be indifferently, we can regard everything with detached indifference, and we can be the objective view. And so, standing in the new nowness, standing in the now, we can regard all experiences as being outside of ourselves, in fact, and therefore we can glean far more information as we can move around the experience, and indeed we can objectively view it from various viewpoints. And this is why we also have many dreams where we are in various roles, and in various different species of alien vehicles, so we can view maybe a similar experience, or even the same experience, but through the eyes of another vehicle. And we are looking at it from a place where, if we are assuming a different vehicle, it will have a completely different created consciousness and personal self, and therefore the trick is to be able to stand indifferent to that in the new nowness and regard the experience with objectivity. The less we stand in the new nowness, if we stand outside of it, if we are completely in our personal self, then all that incorporates the personal self will be a filter. It will block our ability to be objective, and we will not be able to see the experiences in the same way. We will not be able to ascertain what they are demonstrating, for all experiences are to afford us the opportunity to become more aware, to wake up even further, and afford us greater recognition of the all is, with a continuously unfolding process. So all the things that have ever happened to us, all the experiences we have had, and the way we react to them, the way we consider them, the way we create our personality, and also the way that every time we have an experience, instead generally of regarding it with objectivity, we will attach ideas to it. We will have considerations, and ponder it, and make determinations. All we are doing here is being confronted with an experience which is purely for our awareness, and we are then activating our mental vehicle. We are adding on top of the experience and obscuring it, adding our own thoughts and ideas to it. As if this wasn't enough, we are also activating the emotional vehicle and colouring the experience still further with emotion. And so all the experiences we have are stored, yes, in our causal vehicle, and these are always there. And the experiences also, whenever we had them, regardless of how many lifetimes ago they were, will have ideas and thoughts that we activated from our mental body added to them, along with the emotion we also threw into the mix. And so these experiences are stored not just as the experiences, but also as charged ideas. And so we had an experience, and instead of being indifferent to it and regarding it with objectivity, allowing it to give us what it was designed for, and that is an awareness affording opportunity, we coloured it in and buried it amidst all our ideas and thoughts and emotions, and there it sits as a charged idea. And of course all these ideas, all these thoughts and emotions that we added to these experiences will form a tap line, and these tap lines are then restricting us. And during our process of becoming more aware, these old charged ideas that are stored in our causal body will come to the surface and be released, and so we can expect to see in our dreams much imagery that doesn't make sense to us, but may seem oddly familiar. And this is very likely as the old experience with all its emotion and idea, which then becomes a restricting tap line, as these come to the surface to be released, we will most likely see the imagery of the experience in our dreams, and these may seem very far out. For imagine, for a moment, all the myriad lives you have had, all over the creational universe, with any number of species and civilizations. And as these are slowly released, we will see flashes of the experience and these past lifetimes in our dreams. So, as I was saying, all this that makes up our personal self, all these considerations, the way it regards itself, the personal self tends to remain relatively the same. It will react and deal with experiences. The way it reacts is based on survival. It will choose the best reaction and coping mechanism to deal with the experiences it is confronted with. And if these then are stored in the causal body vehicle, and then if these experiences are encountered again, we will draw from our causal vehicle the very similar reaction again. And so an experience which repeats itself continuously in our various lifetimes will bring forth the reaction we had to it, the ideas we placed and thoughts we put with it, and the emotions we added to it also. So we will react in very similar ways again. This then forms a routine and a habit, and will shape our personalities. This whole personal self, with all its 5 vehicles, the way it is, the way it thinks and feels and reacts, the way it utilises the emotional vehicle and its mental vehicle, will stay relatively the same, unless something comes along that makes it so it must react differently. But this entire thing, the entire personal self, is our created consciousness, and this is the difference between consciousness and awareness. A lot of people consider consciousness to be the ultimate, that they must reach a higher level of consciousness, and this will in some way allow them to supersede the limitations of creation. But consciousness is very much the same as all our other 5 vehicles in creation. We can say it is in fact another vehicle, another mechanism, simply to allow us to become more aware through the experiences we have by utilising these 5 vehicles and our created consciousness in the psych realms of the simulated holographic simulation. I lost track of the word I was trying to say there. But yes, the psych realms, the simulation, the place where we glean our experiences from, with our 5 vehicles and our created consciousness, the vehicles for which we do this. And so, from there we then become more aware, if we choose to do so, connect to our real self, which is beyond this creational matrix, and in the real universes of the all is. And so it is awareness that is the important thing, for it is through our awareness that we can begin to recognise our real position, or a real position beyond creation in the all is. And so if we focus on consciousness, if we consider consciousness to be the most important, this is just something in creation. And so effectively we are focusing on something that is only the domain, or only exists in creation. Therefore, where our focus goes will be our experience and our life, and if whatever we do, whatever we pursue or chase, or place our focus upon, will be our reality. And consciousness is nothing more than that which we have created for ourselves, or our personal self, over the millions and millions of lifetimes we have had. And so it will change and alter in subtle ways according to the experiences we have. For example, someone who is very aggressively inclined, this way of being would not simply come into being out of nowhere. If an individual first coming out of the all is and finding themselves in creation, they will effectively be starting off at, let us say, at a 0 point. At this point they would have created nothing, but the experiences come rolling in, due to the cause and effect that is in creation. For it is cause and effect that, yes, keeps us in creation, but also provides us the experiences we require to recognize the all is and the real universes beyond it. And so the experiences are essential. And as the experiences come our way, we will react to them. If we were to stand completely objective and indifferent, then these would simply be experiences, and yes, they would be filed away in our causal body, but they would not be charged emotional ideas, as we would have added nothing to them. But of course we will do this, because we are in our infancy, as far as our state of awareness is concerned, for it takes many, many lifetimes to get through all of creation to have amassed enough experiences to start to get to the stage where we are beginning to reach for something beyond creation. This will take as long as it takes, according to the individual. Yes, it's very possible that some individuals can be very efficient at this. Who knows? Some could pop into creation, suss it all out almost straight away, and then they are in a position where the guides will see that they are ready and approach them. But for most individuals it will take millions and millions of lifetimes to eventually get to the point when the individual is ready. They have had enough experiences, and they are demonstrating a glimmer of real courage, risk-taking. This can be demonstrated with the individuals who are reaching beyond the normal, beyond their routines. They are the seekers, risking to see more, attempting to be more than ever before. We can see these traits with people who are, for example, into various pursuits, magical pursuits, and astral projections, and things of this nature. Of course, all these things are just a stepping stone, and if we remain with these things, which are ideas, we are going to become restricted by them, because all magical pursuits, regardless of the nature of them, be they white or black magic, and with any sort of projecting of the bodies and lucid dreaming and anything along these lines, even experiences with such substances as ayahuasca and other hallucinogens, these will demonstrate risk-taking, and this is what the real universal guides are looking for. This is a clear demonstration that the individual is ready to know more, to be more than they have ever been before, and so the real guides will watch and wait and pick the opportunity to approach the individual on the real side. Then it will filter through to the physical level of the person, and the personal self is then primed. They feel the urge to find something, to seek something. With me, I always had an intuitive nudge that when I found something that I felt was the ultimate, and indeed there are no ultimates in creation, the only ultimate can be found in the real universes of the all is. But every time I came across something, for example shamanism, when I used to be involved with that, I would stick with it for a while, but feel there was something else, the intuitive nudge, and then from there I would seek out other spiritual orientated paths, all sorts of things, as you can imagine, from past life regressions to crystal healings and Reiki and everything in between, a little dabbling with magic, and then into astral projections and things of this nature. But always I would receive that intuitive nudge. This intuition is the nearest facility we have to our real awareness, and if we pay attention to it, it will guide us until we do make the connection to our real self. In the meanwhile, it will steer us. The problem is, well, it's not really a problem, but the reality is that everything we do, if it is along the magical esoteric lines or spiritual paths, these are just ideas in creation. They have been created, and they pertain to creation only. They have nothing to do with the real universes. They are not backed by the all-is or the real universal guides. And so there will be cause and effect, and if we stick with these pursuits, the effects will be more unconscious lifetimes ultimately, and tap lines that restrict us in creation. But nevertheless, if we keep going and we keep listening to our intuition, eventually we will exhaust everything there is possible to experience in our lifetimes here, at least from a creational, created, physical level perspective. And then at this point we may be in a state where we have the intuitive nudge to find something else. In my case, after I felt that there was very little else that I could practice or participate in on the physical life level, I then had the intuitive urge again, and looking and perusing across the internet, I stumbled across the new presentation, and, like with everything that seems to be the next step, my intuition told me this was the next thing to go to, and so I did. But this was something completely different. This was no longer something that was only affiliated with creation. It was the new presentation, and all the references are ideas, yes, that are created in creation, but what they reference is something completely different, whereas all the spiritual paths and such referenced creation only. The new presentation references the real universes and provides the connection to the all-is through the new you song. And so now we move from creation and all the paths and pursuits that exist within it, which are, yes, ideas and cause and effect, taplining will apply. We move from there to something that references the real universes of the all-is, and the connection to the real universes. So we move from just our personal self, our created consciousness and all the 5 body vehicles, we move from that now to connecting with that which oversees all our 5 vehicles and our personal self in creation, that which created it, that which we can now step into. We can now become the actuality of our real self. We will still have our personal self, but now we are moving more so into our real self. We can stand in this new nowness. We can be now, we can be real now. A being isness. and stand real with the universal guides and be with the is. And if our focus is on this endeavour, if we recognise our real intent, which is to do this, complete this process and be with the is, then eventually, but gradually, our personal self will fade away, and we will supersede creation and the need for all the vehicles. And we will supersede the need for our created consciousness. And so we can see that in a roundabout sort of way, I think I was trying to get to some sort of point. Let me have a sip of this while I consider what that was. Oh yes. We can see that created consciousness will fade away with our 5 vehicles. So, as a result, we now know that the consciousness is of a particular, and is only serving as a vehicle for our experiences. And once we begin to become more aware, our focus then will shift into this new reality of the real universes. And we will supersede creation. And, of course, the is in creation now, and with our awareness we can step into this new nowness even as we stand in creation, and cause and effect no longer applies. I was actually going to begin this video cast by talking about who the real controllers were, because I had an individual at work the other day who asked me who they were, and I was slightly busy, and so I couldn't give them much by way of an in-depth answer, so I thought I would take the time to do it here, or at least address it a little more fully, because it follows along the lines of our created consciousness. It follows along the lines of what we have decided for our personality, how we conduct ourselves, the way we react to things, and what we have decided for ourselves. For everybody's lives, everything they have, everything they are, is based upon decisions and choices that they have made. It is based upon cause and effect, which is brought into being as they set things in motion. The emotions and ideas and what they pursue will result in an effect that is an experience, and will move them along. As I was saying earlier, people will tend to follow along the same lines and maintain fairly consistently a personality from one lifetime to another, and this personality and way of being will be according to what that person feels is the best way to survive in creation. Everybody is in creation, and everybody will have millions of lifetimes. And what tends to happen is people will become bored. It is at this point that they will either reach for something outside of themselves, become the risk taker, and dabble in the various alternative paths that are available, but this can also take them down some very, what we may call, dark paths. Nothing is negated in creation in that people can choose whatever they want, because creation is based on free will. Everybody has the right to choose and be whatever they want, regardless of what it is, and cause and effect will come into play. Some individuals may choose a very, what we may call, socially acceptable way of being. Some people may become rather evil and twisted. Interestingly enough, though, regardless of the nature of these lifetimes, be the people good or bad, cause and effect will still apply, for until they have made the connection to the real individual and made the connection to the all is, Until they do that, they are very much in creation, and so regardless of what they create, regardless of the nature of it, be it seemingly good or bad, these are still effects that will be experienced, and the all-ears will look indifferently upon the creation of the individuals in creation. They simply experience what they have created. So for the person who is quote-unquote good, they will be as much trapped in creation as the person who is quote-unquote bad, until they choose to connect to their real selves and become more aware and begin to focus on and align themselves with the all is, and then step out of cause and effect creation altogether. And so people will assume all types of different personalities and ways of being, from the tyrant to the peasant. Of course, the effects that we experience are in proportion to the causes, and if what we do is of a restricting nature, if what we do causes harm and is detrimental to other individuals, particularly in regards to constricting their opportunity to become more aware, then the effects will be far more dire. Individuals who have chosen very dark roads indeed, who are very abusive of other individuals, and who are in a position where they can seriously impact and reduce the vast swathes of the population ability to become more aware, if they restrict it through what they do, then they can expect future lifetimes that reflect this way of being. They may find themselves in very harsh lifetimes for millions of years. They may find the effects of what they have set in motion through their choices to be that they will return in distorted body types, and they must suffer then and experience these less than able body types and situations and very dire life circumstances for a number of lifetimes, until the effects have been exhausted, until the karma has been repaid, in effect. And indeed, if someone of a very dark disposition passes over, they will find themselves in a sort of purgatory, an in-between holding place, almost like a sort of hell cell, I suppose, if you will, and they may be in there for what seems to be hundreds and thousands of years, and then they will find themselves in endless lifetimes of suffering and torture, and things of this nature, if they are of a very dark disposition. So yes, individuals, regardless of what they do, are trapped in creation if they haven't made the connection to the real universes. But this doesn't then mean that people can do whatever they want. Well, they can, but they will have to suffer the effects of it, and these, as I said, are in proportion to the causes. And so we can see how various individuals decide what they want. There are certain individuals that decide they wish to control others, and these ways of being are established maybe millions of lifetimes ago. It's quite interesting, but in one of Dwayne's new books he actually went back in time, along the agreed upon time that is, because time only exists in creation because it is agreed to. But anyway, he went back in time and actually saw some of the controllers who exist in creation today in their rudimentary stages of becoming that which they are. He would see and view how they were taking control and establishing themselves as the top people in little village settings, And this is where it begins. Already we can see, maybe millions of lifetimes ago, one individual decides to take control over the others because they have that urge to do so, and the others are then following. And this is the model we see that then continues throughout the lifetimes and through the epochs. The individuals who control see the benefit of doing so. From their personal self-perspective, they see they have more than everybody else, as indeed those that control seem to do. But their control is only to the extent of which it is agreed to. If the agreement to the control and the position of the individual is redacted, that person has no more control and position of it therefore. And so, individuals that have the urge to control and dominate, these personality types will be forged. Their created consciousness will go along these lines and continue. And because they focus on this sort of way of being, their lifetimes will map out accordingly, and they will find themselves in positions where they can be in control again. And this then goes through the eons and epochs all the way to the present day, where more and more they find themselves in greater and greater positions of power and control, potentially. And so in addressing who the world controllers are, as is often made mention of, who the dark forces and those that control humanity and creation are, these are simply individuals who have decided this for themselves. They wished to control. Their personal self saw the merits of doing so, and their decided upon life and focus unfolded accordingly. And then ultimately, because their focus was there, and everyone can decide whatever they want for their lives, because creation is a reflective bubble. Whatever you want, you will have. You simply focus upon it, and the cause and effect will unfold the lifetime and the experiences that will afford you what you feel that you wish, and want, and seek. But of course, this will still keep you in creation. But we can see how boredom, which will set in after millions of lifetimes of being in a very restricted place in relation to the real universes, will cause the individual to do things along this nature, to want to manipulate others, to have more than everybody else. It is through boredom that these controlling types are created, and so, through their decisions and their free will to do so, they have established themselves as being in control of vast swathes of individuals. And if everybody agrees to this position, as the majority of the human species has been programmed to do so, then these positions are maintained. And there are various tiers of controllers as well. We can see the hierarchical structure, for example, on this very planet. The politicians and people of this type, these are all controllers. Anybody who is in a position of influence over vast swathes of the population at this time are basically controllers. All those we see on television, the individuals reporting the news on the mainstream television, all the celebrities, all these individuals are unconsciously working on behalf of the controllers, are indeed controllers and most likely reptilians themselves. They may not consciously recognize this, but they represent control, keeping the masses focused on phenomena in creation, keeping them distracted, keeping them from becoming more aware, by feeding them endless things and distractions. and endless television shows and phenomena and thrills for them to endlessly chase. And all they will be doing is chasing these things into future lifetimes, into far more robotized societies. And so we can see the controllers in the very structure of the systems that we see, and then they go still further into the shadows, into the places where the controller types are in more powerful positions, but are now outside of the public view. These are the individuals that control our politicians. For yes, we may think that the politicians are the most important and powerful people on the planet. They are not. They are mere puppets, and are controlled by higher echelons in the control system. The individuals we may never see. We may be aware of some of these as the powerful banking families. The individuals such as the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, etc. And then it goes beyond them into the deeper parts of the hierarchy, and at this stage it will even go beyond the planet into individuals who control these from places unseen, for ultimately the reptilians rule and control this planet, and naturally we will not see these. For it is the reptilians who represent the higher tiers of the control system, the ones who actually control the planet and control most of the creational universes on the physical level, or are certainly attempting to do so. Some species will be resisting them, such as the Syrians in a war, but those who are unable to fight back, or, as in the human race's case, those species who have been created, dumbed down and programmed from day one, will be completely under their control. And all these individuals are simply those which have aspired to more and more higher positions in this hierarchy. An individual who is a politician now, today, represents control, and is part of this control system, is a reptilian, there can be no doubt, and also has the potential to reach higher levels in this hierarchy. For if this politician continues to focus on power, wanting to be greater and greater still in the hierarchy, then, as is the nature of creation and free will, that individual will have what they seek. They will have lifetimes that reflect this, and so in a future lifetime it's very possible they will return into a higher position in the hierarchy. Where all this stems from is the top people in the hierarchies of control, and these, we can say, are those which govern the levels of the psych realms beyond the physical. For yes, the physical level is controlled predominantly by the reptilians and their hierarchical structure down to the level that we see. In the levels beyond, an individual has established himself as the top controller of each of these: the astral level, the causal, mental and ethereal. I can't remember exactly the names of the individuals. Let's see. Yes, the astral level, I believe, is an individual called Jot, or Jehovah as he goes by, and he is the brother of the Callum god on the mental level. And this individual is a reptilian, as they all are, and he is basically a very ambitious tyrant who assumed his position because he had the desire and the will, and with free will in place, he had the focus to aspire to this place, and into the causal level, which I cannot remember the name of, but it is still a reptilian individual, and the mental level is the one most well known, which is the Callum god, and into the ethereal level, and the ethereal level is yet another reptilian who is called or referred to as the Supreme Deceptor. And so we can say this Supreme Deceptor is the top dog, the very top position that a tyrant can assume, because no one of this nature can be in the real universes. Because anybody who seeks anything, anybody who activates free will and focuses on something or a position in creation only, can go no further than creation. To be in the real universes beyond creation would have us superseding creation and all the 5 vehicles, superseding any personal wants and desires, or anything of this nature. To be standing real in the real universes, we would simply be and see, with nothing added on top. No desires, thrills, wants, or things of this nature, because everything is in the real universes, and when we stand with the is, we simply is also, and so nothing can be added on top. So obviously all the individuals who seek whatever position they do, if they seek things, desire to want to be things, this is from the personal self, and so the personal self and creation is as far as they can go. And so the ethereal life level is the only position is as far as an individual can go. And so, who are the controllers? They are simply individuals who have decided they want to control. They have chosen this for themselves. They are the decider of their lives, as everybody else is, and through free will they have the right to choose and be whatever they want. And focusing on this, and the experiences through cause and effect are laid out before them to provide them what they desire, they ultimately find themselves positioned in the places that they wish, but are of course resigned and restricted to creation. And even some of the controllers are getting rather bored at this time, and are turning to the new presentation and wishing to become more aware also. As everybody, even the direst of controllers, even the individual who is the Supreme Deceptor, has a real self in the real universes to be recognized. Obviously because of their position, which has caused a tremendous restriction for individuals beyond description. They would have many lifetimes to have to work through in order to work off their karma, and so a very daunting position indeed. So yes, these controllers may feel they're having a good time now, but they are just compounding their consequences, and eventually their karma will be due, and they will have to have cause and effect consequences that are rather dire. They will have millions of very miserable lifetimes, and for some of these individuals they may find themselves in the phantom zone. This is a place where individuals are sent to when their karma is due. An individual or controller who has caused untold sufferings throughout creation, severely suppressed awareness and restricted individuals, when their karma is due, they may not find themselves in future lifetimes that are dire and severe. They may be sent to a place called the Phantom Zone. This is a place where it seems to be a sort of void, where the individuals there don't have body vehicles, they are just a sort of consciousness floating around. And from there then they may be in this sort of strange void for vast swathes of what we call time, where they are effectively put out of the way, so they can no longer cause disruption. It's a rather hard place to imagine, but it certainly isn't very appealing, for you could do absolutely nothing there, just float about in this strange void. And from there, when they come back into creation, they must start again all over. And by this I mean they would start as the most simplest of organisms, like amoebas, and then begin the process all over again. For when we first come out of the all-ears, we will start at the very rudimentary stages of life, work through all the body vehicles until we become something like a human or another more sentient individual. Then we are granted free will. Then the experiences come in of our own accord through the decisions and choices we make based on the cause and effect principle. And then ultimately we will be granted the opportunity to become more aware when the guides see that we are now looking for something beyond creation, that we are in fact getting rather bored with the creational process, and we seek to be more and see more than we've ever been before. And so these controllers will start all over again. Amazingly enough, it seems that the controllers that do start all over again still seem to harbour the same sort or quality of created consciousness that got them into the phantom zone in the first place. And they may go along the same lines again, working through all the animal species, getting to a point where they are granted free will, and then they may begin along the same lines of creating for themselves abrasive and controlling personalities. As an example, the queen of the reptilian Orions was recently, along with her brothers Enki and Enlil, put in the Phantom Zone because their karma was due. And so these are the controllers, simply individuals who have decided to be controllers. And so they have what they seek. They control others. And yes, it may seem for a time this is a more favourable position to be in. We can see on this very planet how the rich and the privileged and the elites seem to have everything. And yes, everybody in creation, regardless of their position and what they have, what they don't have, the personality and the nature of their created consciousness will still all be restricted in creation due to cause and effect. But that is, of course, unless they make the connection to the real universes through their awareness. And the New You song, which affords this connection. But the elites, who seem to have absolutely everything, those in positions of control, are compounding very dire cause and effect consequences that they will be experiencing. So if one were to be in creation and restrict themselves there only, we can see at least it does make more sense to make as little an impact, cause and effect speaking, as possible. In other words, not imposing on other people, not restricting other people, and not controlling other people. Yes, unless we make the connection, we would still be in creation, but at least our future positions will not be as bad as the controllers when they have to return in future lifetimes. They are aware of this to a degree, and this is why they seek to give themselves longer lifespans through their various technologies. Also, the Callum God recognizes the individuals that are serving his need, who are, through the structures of control, maintaining his position. And so he will ensure that these individuals are best able to return to positions of power in future lifetimes. But cause and effect is outside of his hands. This is a mechanism he has no control over, and the lords of karma who exist in the astral level, who go over that which an individual has done in their lifetime, then presents them with the lifetime they must lead next, these are beyond the control of the Kalam also. And these lords of karma are individuals themselves who have assumed the position that they do based on the focus and the want to have it. Who knows what sort of decisions and choices would have been made to result in being a lord of karma? It is simply a position that became available and they simply decided to assume it. It's rather hard to fathom how someone would end up in that position, but nevertheless, through the choices that those individuals made, they then did end up being in those positions. And so everybody that passes over, if they are not connected to their real awareness, then they are very much of creation and are at the mercy of cause and effect, and are brought before these lords of karma, who then will inform them of where they will go next. Naturally, individuals do in fact decide their own lifetimes and future lifetimes based on what they choose and the cause and effect they set in motion, as we are all the deciders of all we are and what we do next and where we go in future lifetimes. The lords of karma simply inform us of what we have decided for ourselves, and then we are taken accordingly to our next lifetimes and return unconscious once again. The only way we can bypass these lords of karma is again if we connect to our real selves, if we become more aware and connect to the real universes of the all-is and our real selves, then the real guides will step in and we are on a different process, a different path. We will not be subjected to cause and effect and the lords of karma. Cause and effect will always apply if we do stay in creation and our personal selves only. But once we are making the connection and showing the real intent to become more aware, we more so bypass the lords of karma, and this is simply a decision that we make. And so our positioning beyond this lifetime in future lifetimes will probably be far more conducive for our real awareness. But in fact we can complete our process now if we decide to do so. And so I will end it there for now. I went a little longer than I anticipated, and I will end then with the New You song, which is the connection to the real universes. So you can see creation is quite a mess. It is all about control. That is all that it is. If you want to remain in creation and be subjected to this control, and have endless unconscious lifetimes, for be aware that this is a warring universe, and nowhere in the creational universes are safe. They may look relatively safe, but at any time someone or something can come to your door. There are millions of people who go missing every year. Millions and millions of individuals vanishing without a trace. Many of them are taken off planet, many of them are murdered, and the reptilians in fact eat people as well. Nowhere in creation is safe. And so if you want to stay in creation and continue to create a little life for yourself, feeling that you are safe, well, there will come a day where this will not be so, and creation is rapidly deteriorating and getting less safe by the day. So I would certainly suggest To sing the new you song, begin your process of becoming more aware and extricate yourself from the dangerous realm that is the creational matrix. And it is through the new you song. Begin singing the new you song 15 or so minutes before bed, 15 or minutes or so on waking, and watch your dream visions. Because on the real side, what we call the dream arena, you will receive demonstrations and experiences, hints and nudges, as the real guides come into your life and afford you that which you require to become more aware. Remember, the All-Is wants you to return back to it, and the real universal guides are the intermediaries, and they also are endeavouring to help any individual who shows the intent to do so how to be with the ears. So everything is in your favour. All you need to do is to recognise your real intent, have the focus to supersede creation, and sing the new you song as a demonstration of your real intent, which also serves as the real connection and grants permission for the real guides to step in and assist you, and your process will begin and will continue, and with the focus maintained, eventually you will supersede creation and become a real and return back to the ears and have real freedom. Return to the state that you already are, that requires recognition, that of a real being of light, completely free in the real universes of the All-Is, beyond the restriction of cause and effect creation. And so, the new you song. New you. I will speak to you soon. Oh, I went over an hour. A little longer than I anticipated. Anyway, I will see you later.